It's time again for another Source One podcast. My name is Nicholas Hamner, and I am Source One's Business Development Manager. Today, I wanted to talk with you about Supplier Relationship Management. The cost-saving benefits of applying strategic sourcing principles and processes have been well documented and realized across the majority of the Fortune 1000. Strategic sourcing projects frequently generate significant cost savings, which have a very favorable return on investment, considering the low cost required to implement them. However, as these gains are realized, it is becoming increasingly difficult for companies today to generate the same level of returns year over year, utilizing the same sourcing techniques and tactics. Moreover, research has shown that as supplier relationships are proactively managed, the initial benefits derived from the strategic sourcing efforts are not only maintained, but improved. The opposite is true for those supplier relationships that are loosely managed or benignly neglected by the buying organization. Companies have now become more dependent on a complex supply base. In many cases, key processes and functions have been outsourced, and the supply base collapsed due to strategic sourcing projects. This complex virtual organization type of structure begs for the need to drive performance improvements, manage risks, and efficiently manage supplier relationships. So the question then becomes, how are companies satisfying these needs? And the answer is, in short, supplier relationship management. Supplier relationship management, in this case, refers to a set of skills that include supplier management development, processes, governance mechanisms, and systems to manage suppliers on a day-to-day basis over the supplier lifecycle, which is onboarding to exit. By now you may be thinking, all this skill development sounds great, but what benefits does SRM actually produce? Supplier relationship management can be used to solve a number of challenges in a complex modern business that aren't presently addressed through traditional strategic sourcing. Let's walk through a few of these challenges. The first challenge is that a company is not realizing the full value from their strategic sourcing efforts. Sourcing efforts typically produce significant cost reductions and other benefits. However, without disciplined management of the supplier relationship, these benefits are rarely realized over time. This results in the need to conduct or reconduct another sourcing event. A component of supplier relationship management is dedicated supplier managers with executive sponsorship. Leaders in these roles ensure suppliers deliver quality products and services as expected and drive incremental benefits up to 5% above contracted terms. Another challenge is that supplier risks have become transferred to the buyer. As services are rapidly deployed from in-house to an outsourced provider, the management of those risks has not kept pace. This becomes more critical as the supplier relationship and processes become increasingly more complex. With SRM, you gain insight into supplier risk and controls and testing of control effectiveness. This can be migrated into existing risk management processes with an improved visibility and transparency into supplier risk. A third challenge is the problem of unclear roles and processes that emerge following the signing of a contract. Strategic sourcing processes are very robust leading up to execution of a supplier contract. However, once a contract is signed and it moves into a ramp-up and handover to the operation, there's typically little clarity around what management processes must be in place, who within the company is responsible, and how executives should be involved. This results in inefficient management of the supplier, increased total cost of ownership, and a failure to harness all of the supplier's capabilities. When implemented, supplier relationship management puts into place an efficient structure on both the supplier and buyer to manage the relationship, resulting in lower costs and access to the right executives on both sides. Another challenge is that employees spend too much time managing suppliers with redundant and often unnecessary interactions. With supplier relationship management, a company gains dedicated professionals to decrease the overall cost of managing suppliers, along with training that unlocks the full potential of suppliers for the organization. Another challenge is companies failing to communicate with key suppliers regarding their strategic issues. Many supplier SLAs can be tracked and reported on without aligning the SLAs to constantly evolving business priorities. What results is a lack of clarity on what suppliers are actually accountable for, and a limited understanding of what actions should be taken when any issues occur. SRM puts into place processes and roles and responsibilities which look to gain value from the supplier relationships, quickly recovering costs from ill-performing suppliers, and adapt supplier performance to the changing business priorities. A final challenge is a weird one. where suppliers end up managing the purchasing organization, resulting in an undisciplined buying strategy. This occurs due to the fact that major supplier relationships tend to have multiple touchpoints at multiple levels: operational, contractual, financial, executive to executive, etc. It's through these multiple touchpoints that suppliers work the relationship to protect their existing business and to grow future business. This technique has the propensity to distract employees from their core tasks and possibly lead to poor procurement choices. An SRM program can serve to create a more disciplined process which reduces the cost of supplier management, reduces the sales cycle timeline, and improves buying and procurement decisions. With an understanding of supplier relationship management, the question then turns to implementing it within your own organization. If you lack the internal resources to do so, this is where a conversation with a third-party consultant like Source One can be beneficial. When Source One goes in to help a client with a situation like this, the first step in creating a supplier relationship management program is developing a business case. To do that, Source One focuses on the organization's most pressing supplier management pain points and challenges and demonstrates the value of implementing SRM best practices with key suppliers. When developing a business case, organizations must consider the following: are supplier objectives and performance in line with organizational objectives? Does supplier performance directly correlate in areas that drive the most value for the organization? Are suppliers rewarded for exceptional performance in areas that matter most to the organization? Conversely, are they penalized for poor performance? Is there a clearly defined common set of processes, policies, and tools governing the ongoing day-to-day management of suppliers? Does the staff that interfaces with suppliers on a day-to-day or even less frequent basis have the skills to manage suppliers effectively to maximize the value? Are strategic suppliers delivering the value expected from top leaders in the organization? Are all suppliers treated equally? If the supply base is in fact segmented, are there clear processes and procedures for managing strategic versus non-strategic suppliers? Finally, does the organization have the processes in place to develop the capabilities of important suppliers in order to boost supplier performance, direct supplier investment in new services, gain first access to technologies and innovation, and gain a competitive advantage? When you bring in Source One, you bring in experts that are skilled in conducting market analyses and developing the best practices your procurement department needs to gain a competitive advantage by implementing a proper SRM strategy. As unbiased consultants with multiple decades of experience, we have worked with tens of thousands of suppliers and fully understand what is important to them in a client-supplier relationship. Our experts can work with your procurement team to pass on the knowledge and skills necessary to better your organization's supplier relationship management program. In addition to developing a supplier management strategy, Source One can serve as your outsourced supplier relationship management team to identify revenue drivers, ensure organizational alignment, mitigate risks, reduce management costs, and develop supplier relationships that will create real value for your organization. If you have any additional questions regarding supplier relationship management, please do not hesitate to contact Source One. We would love to hear from you. Once again, my name is Nicholas Hamner. I'm the Business Development Manager here at Source One, and thank you for watching.